Hello friends, welcome back to the channel Step by Step. In today's session we are going to discuss about static keyword. What is static keyword? The static keyword in Java is used for memory management mainly. Okay, we can apply Java static keyword with variables, methods, blocks and nested class. The static keyword belongs to the class than an instance of the class. So the static can be variable, also known as a class variable. So if you declare any variable as static, it will also be known as class variable. If you declare any method as a static, it will also be known as class method. Then we can have a static block and a nested class. So what is Java static variable? So if you declare any variable as static, it is known as static variable. The static variable can be used to refer the common property of all objects, which is not unique for each object. For example, the company name of employees, college name of students, etc. So basically we need to understand when to use static variable. Okay. Although static variable gets memory only once in the class area at the time of class loading. So that's why it is an advantage of static variable, that it makes your program memory efficient, that is it saves memory. So this with these both examples like employees and college. Okay, so if you consider the employees or company example, so the company name going to be same for all the employees, and similarly the college name going to be same for all the students. So that's why whenever we declare any variable to store company name, we should declare it as static. Similarly, if whenever we declare any variable to store college name, we should declare it as static, so that it will get memory only once. Now let's understand, if we don't have static variable, then what will happen. So in this example we are taking an example of college which is having let's say 500 students. Okay, so we need to store the data of the student, let's say roll number, his name, email id, date of birth, etc., and finally the college name. Okay, so if we consider all other fields like roll number, student name, then student date of birth, student email ID are going to be unique for each student. So that means those are going to be different for 500 students. So we definitely need to store those separately for each student. But if you consider the college name is going to be same for visit EI, like visit EI. Okay, so we should create a static variable for storing the college name, rather than creating 500 data blocks to store college name, the same college name. Then it's a waste of memory. So that's why we should use the static variable. Okay, so I'm going to write a sample program with the static variable. Okay, so let's create first some instance variable. What is instance variable? Instance variable are those variable which are declared inside the class but outside the method. So we are not declaring it inside any method. If we declare any variable inside any method, it will become local variable. So we'll just create instance variable. Okay, so we are taking an example of student. So I'm just creating two instance variable. Let's say integer roll number. Okay, roll number. Okay, then string student name. Okay, so this is something we are getting. Okay, so again I'm applying private access modifier because uh, we are going to use this in the same class, so we don't need to use this in another class. So that's why I'm just making it those private. Okay, so this is done. Now let me create one static variable. Static variable. Okay, because as we have discussed, college is going to be common for all the students, so it is a static field. We don't need to initialize, or we don't need a separate variable each time when we create object for college, as it's same for all the students. So I'm just creating one more private static string and college name. Okay, that's it. Now what I'm doing, I'm just creating one constructor which will keyword which will accept the roll number and student name. Okay, so roll number will be integer, so roll, and string will be a student. Okay, and what we are doing, we are just assigning the instance variable value. So that is roll number will be the roll, and student name will be the student. So basically, why I'm creating this constructor, because whenever I create any object for the same class, then this constructor will be called uh, automatically. We don't need to call constructor explicitly. Okay, so whenever we create any object of the class, the constructor will be called. Okay. So we'll discuss the constructor, what is constructor, how constructors are working in the session, uh, which we are going to record for constructor separately. So for now, what I'm doing, public static void main, so that I can, void is missing. So let me write return type void main string args, and okay. Now in that, what we need to do, we need to create an object of the class static keyword s1 is equals to new static keyword, as we have written the parameterized constructor, so it is giving us an option of parameterized constructor. So I'm just providing the details. It should say student name, but somehow it is saying college name, so that's fine. Okay, so it is Karan. Okay, then one more keyword, sorry, it should be static. Java is a case sensitive language, so we need to be careful whenever we are writing uh, the class name, method name, everything. Okay, okay, so now what I will make it, I'll make it 2, and let's say Arjun, Karan Arjun. Great, Karan Arjun. Okay, so that's our class ready. So what we have done, we have created two instance variable, one static variable, we have created one parameterized constructor, then we have created two objects which will store two student data. Okay, so college name will be fixed actually, so we can directly assign college name. Let's say I'm saying VJTI is a college for the student. And okay, so if we run, okay, let's add one display method so that when we run it, it will be printing the details. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm just creating a display method which will just print the data. Okay, so first one will be the roll number, so let's add roll number. Then second one will be the name of the student, so I'm just adding name and student name. Okay, student name, and finally let's print the college as well. Okay, okay, plus is mixed. So what we are printing here, college. Okay, so college name. Now our code is ready. So any guesses when we run this code, what output it will display? So let's check. So I'm running static keyword. Oh, because we haven't called this display method, so we need to call that method. Okay, so let's say I am calling the method with both the objects. Let me do one thing. I'll call with only one object first. So with this, now if you see, as we called first object, so because the data is assigned to both the times, right? Means like for both the objects the data is assigned in the memory, so it is there. But as we called only display method with one object, it is printing only one. So let me do one thing. Let me add uh, second object as well, and let me call that method. Okay, and now when we run it, we will just get both the student details printed. Okay, so basically it's very simple. Static keyword, when we use static keyword, when something is let's say constant for particular type, like college name is not going to change for all the students. So there is if you are creating this college name, college variable as instance variable, and if you are not making it static, then unnecessarily whenever you add new student, one new object will be created with the college name, and this will store the same information. So now with this code there is only two students for now. Let's suppose you have created 500 student data for the 500 students, so you are unnecessarily creating college name variable 500 times. So that is waste of memory. With creating it as a static, it will create only once, and it will be used for all the objects. Okay, so this static variable will be available for all the objects. Okay, so yeah, that's it. It's very simple and small program actually. Okay, so let's understand the difference between static variable and instance variable with one more small program. So in this program, what we are going to see, we are going to demonstrate the use of an instance variable which get memory each time when we create an object of the class. Okay, that's one thing. And the second one, Java program to illustrate the use of static variable which is shared with all objects. That means um, once we declare any variable as static variable, then if you create new object of the same class, it will not basically create one other object for that variable as we declare it as a static. So let's see. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create one um, instance variable first, so and then I'll update the same program for static variable. So let me make one instance variable int, uh, let's say counter. Okay, so and I'm making, okay, so now it's a instance variable which will get, sorry, get memory memory each time when new object is created. Okay, okay, then it's not. So now I'm just doing one default constructor, static counter, and in that what I'm doing, I'm just doing increment counter plus plus, and let's print it. Sys out count is okay, and the counter. Okay, so it's very simple. I just created one instance variable and constructor so that it will get called automatically whenever we create any new object. Now I'm just writing public static void main so that we will create some some object. Okay, string args and curly braces. Okay, so the main method. Now let's do three object, okay, of the same class. Static keyword obj1 is equals to new Static keyword, 1 second. Static keyword, static counter. Sorry, we need to do static counter, not the keyword. I have taken another other class name from the same package actually. So that's why it was showing the parameterized constructor. Okay, so that's object one. Let me duplicate it 2 times. Okay, so we are all set to go. See, we don't need to use this object to call any other method because there is no method. So simply when we create this object, this constructor will get initialized automatically. So let me run the program. So what is we need to run? Okay, run a Java application. So okay, so if you see, whenever new object is created, the counter gets defaulted to 0 because the default value will be 0, and when you do counter plus plus, it will print as 1. So that is for object 1, object 2 and object 3. So if you see, for all three objects, new object is new memory for the variable is created, new instance of the variable is created, and all three variables are storing now all three instance memories will be storing 1 as a value. Okay, so let me do one thing. So what I'm doing now, I'm just changing this to static, and let's see what um, difference it makes. So I'll keep the it same. Okay, private static. Okay, static int, and now I'm just making it as a static variable. So once you make it a static variable will get memory only once, and it will be available for all objects of the class. Okay, so no matter how many class objects you are creating, now the same variable will be available to all the objects. So let me wipe the run and let's run it again. Okay, so static counter. Now observe the difference. Now if you see, the same counter variable got incremented. For for first object it's 1, for second object it's 2. Now it shows that the same counter variable value got incremented. But when we ran it earlier, it seems like the counter variable value is stored separately for each object. Okay, so that's the difference in between instance variable and static variable. Okay, yeah, that's it for. So if you apply static keyword with any method, it is known as static method. Basically, a static method belongs to the class rather than the object of a class. Okay, a static method can be invoked without the need of creating an instance of a class. So this is important. You don't need to create an instance of a class for calling a static method. You can directly call the static method with using the class name. Okay, so but if you need to call any non-static method, you definitely need to have an object of the class. Then only you can access the method. Okay, a static method can access static data member and can change the value of it. Okay, so if you want to change a value of static data member, you can change it in static method. Okay, so here I'm just adding one static method change, and we will change the already declared static variable. So the college name will update the static college name variable value. Okay, so let me correct the syntaxes. Now we'll just write college name equals to VGTI college. So let's run the program now. No, we need to run the static keyword program. Okay, so as we haven't called this change method yet, so that's why this college name change haven't actually happened. So I just need to call this change method with one of the object. So let's call it once with s let's say s1 object, s1 dot change, and we will run the program again. Now this time the as we already updated the college name variable with the new value, so it will print the new one now. Yeah, see, if you see, now it is printing college as VGTI college. So that's why you can use static method to change static data members. So what are restrictions for the static method? Okay, so there are two main restrictions for the static method, and what are those? So those are: the static method cannot use non-static data member or call non-static method directly. That means you cannot call a non-static variable inside the static method. Also, you cannot call non-static method inside the static method. Also, in the static, you cannot use super and this and super. This is another keyword, super is another keyword. Okay, so these two keywords you cannot use in static context. Okay, so as we discussed earlier, what I'm trying to do, I'm just trying to update the non-static variable in a static block, static method basically. So we already have that roll number, which is an instance variable, and that is not a static variable actually. So I'm just trying to access that in a static method, the change which we written earlier. So roll number. So if you see, even it doesn't give the option because that is not accessible to be a, that's why it is not giving that option of roll number here. But let me put it manually. Okay, so now if you see, it will say change roll number to static, because in a static method you can only call static data members, that is static variables only, and or else static method. So you cannot call non-static things in static method. Okay, so that's why it is saying the same, cannot make a static reference to the non-static field roll number. That will be the reason it is flagging it as red. This is another one of the important question that has been asked in many interviews. Why is the Java main method static? It is because the object is not required to call a static method. So we already learned that we don't need to have object to call a static method in our previous program samples actually. If it were a non-static method, although it is not, but we are considering the situation if main method were a non-static method, then in this scenario, JVM creates an object first, then call main method. That will lead the problem of extra memory allocation. So उस केस में JVM को पहले ऑब्जेक्ट क्रिएट करना पड़ता, देन वो मेन मेथड कॉल कर पाता, एंड इस केस में क्या होता ना, एक्स्ट्रा मेमोरी लग जाती टू क्रिएट एन ऑब्जेक्ट. सो जावा स्टैटिक ब्लॉक क्या होता है? इज यूज्ड टू इनिशियलाइज द स्टैटिक डेटा मेंबर. सो जावा स्टैटिक ब्लॉक नॉर्मली क्या है ना, स्टैटिक डेटा मेंबर जो होते हैं वो उनको इनिशियलाइज करने के लिए यूज किया जाता है. ओके, बिकॉज यू डोंट नीड टू, that means static block will be executed before main method. That's why वो static data member को initialize करने के लिए use किया जाता है. Okay. So let's understand the static block. So in the same Java class, I'm going to add one static class, and I'm just going to print something in that static block. So static block will be declared with the keyword only static, then open curly braces, and in the print statement what I'm writing, that this is a static block, this is static block. Okay, so as we already discussed, the static block will be executed before the main method. That means static block will get the precedence over the main method. So let's run it. Okay, so if you observe the execution result, now it is saying this is static block which will get printed first, and then whatever comes in main method, so that will be printed after the static block. Okay, so that's how you can declare the static block. This is again one of the important questions. So can we execute a program without main method? और ये भी बहुत बार इंटरव्यू में पूछा गया हुआ क्वेश्चन है एक्चुअली. नॉर्मली ऑटोमेशन क्यूएस को ज़्यादा ये पूछा जाता है to understand the knowledge of the QA persons in Java actually. So the answer to this is no. One of the ways was the static block. जो हमने पहले देखा, static block was used to be one of the way um, where we don't need to have main method, but it was possible till JDK 1.6. अभी since JDK 1.7 it is not possible to execute a Java class without the main method. तो अभी ये possible नहीं है. In case if you still have JDK 1.6 or below version, and if you are using that, then you can try and use static block instead of main method, and you can run your program. Okay, so let's understand whether we can execute the class without main method. So I'll just comment out the main method from our static keyword class, and now let's run the class again. So if you see, it is giving an error that main method not found, because we all know that now we cannot run a class without main method now. We are using it was allowed earlier, but with the recent uh, Java versions it is not allowed. So let's check what Java version I'm using. So I'm using Java SE 15, the latest one. That's why it is not allowing to run a class without main method. Okay. Thank you guys. That's it for today's session. If you have any queries, questions, you can either email me on this email to stepbystep@gmail.com, or you can put it in comment section, and I'll definitely try to answer. Or if I don't know the answers, I'll try to search it and understand, and then we'll try to provide the same. For now, thank you very much. Keep watching the videos. Please like and subscribe the channel. Thank you.